Welcome to Cinemaphile, where we showcase the best in independent documentary and foreign filmmakers and talk to them about their work. I'm your host, Mike Kaspar. You can listen to other interviews by going to Cinemaphile with Mike Kaspar at Spotify. On the fringes of the Oregon wilderness, two strangers are brought together when a reclusive woodsman discovers a teenage runaway, hypothermic and barely conscious, in the woods. It's a good place to end that because I want you to be drawn into this really effective drama, very well told. The acting is superb. The look of it, I love the cinematography in this film. And we're joined today by the director, writer, and co-producer of To Kill a Wolf, Kelsey Taylor. Kelsey, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, thank you very much. This is a story that is unique in its circumstance and such, but in other ways very familiar, unfortunately. Tell me a little bit about the inspiration behind To Kill a Wolf.
So this is a story that I've been working on for a very, very long time, and it's something that's been stuck in my craw and just had to tell it. And the script has gone through so many iterations over the years. You're talking 17, 18 drafts, starting back in 2017. And that was a very different script. The two things that have really not changed over the years have been Little Red Riding Hood as the concept, told through this lens of sexual grooming. And I particularly wanted to explore what that kind of abuse looks like within families, because I think it's such a hard thing for people to talk about. It comes with so much shame. How do you break out of that cycle? And I hope that this is done in a way that does give victims a way of thinking about their place as a victim differently, and hopefully taking the first steps towards breaking out of that cycle.
Yes, I think that's such a smart thing that you did to essentially put it in reference to something that we're all familiar with. It is a folktale that is told to us from a very early age, but you've told it in a way that again, it's updated. It is, it's very effective. The thing with things like folk tales and these sort of this mythology is it tends to leapfrog a lot of our barriers, if you will, to hearing a story or to being engaged in a story that may feel difficult. But this, I think, sort of jumps over that hurdle in some way.
I hope so. I think stranger danger is something that we grew up with as kids. Don't talk to strangers, and this turns that on its head to a certain extent. It might not be the strangers you need to watch out for. It might be the people you're closest to.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, critical to the success of the film is the setting.
Yeah.
And the backstory on, he's referred to as the Woodsman in the film, but yes, it is to his story, which unfolds over the course of the entire film, which again is another smart thing that I feel like you did with the film, is you made his arc really interesting by virtue of just the interaction he has with Dani, but also his own story to be told over the course of the film. Let's just talk about, that getting these character arcs kind of in sync with one another, right?
Yeah. It's a tricky thing to have two protagonists. And definitely in writing it, that evolved. It used to be very much Dani's story. It was a linear story of this girl finding a way to save herself. The premise of that version was, what if Little Red Riding Hood had to save herself? Like, what if the woodsman showed up to save the day and he wasn't a very good guy either? And since then, I think I've changed as a person. The world has changed, and I'm seeing much more the strengths of finding help in other people, finding a way through this crazy journey of life by engaging with other people, and opening up to them. And so that's really what I wanted to do, was figure out a way for these two people who seemingly have nothing in common to find some kind of common ground and find a way forward through their trauma.
And this is the part, by the way, you were also executive producer. Ivan Martin does such a great job. We've seen this kind of a character before, kind of the wounded soul, recluse. He's out in the middle of nowhere. He's self-sufficient, doesn't really like people. But boy, does he bring a level of humanity to this film, to this role and to this film. I just immediately just drawn to him, like just to look at him. He's really a great presence. And that's the cinematography in the film, which I don't want to talk about, but just the way that he is introduced to us and his bearing in the film.
Yes, Ivan's amazing. And I don't know if this film would have happened without Ivan's involvement, frankly. And it definitely wouldn't be the film it is without him. He was someone that we had come across in working on another film. And ironically, it was a comedy. And Ivan just stood out. You could tell, like, that guy has something. He makes really interesting choices. He's a smart actor. And I feel like whenever I'm looking for actors, I'm just looking for people who get it. And I think they can do anything if you find someone who really, really has it.
Yeah, and Madison Brown again. I'm compliment. It's just the entire cast is very, very good. So I don't want to leave anybody out.
I
Just
know.
but definitely Madison, who really had. You're right. That she's. I mean, I can see where you wrote this initially as her story. You know, but she has a real bearing in this film as well. She's got a lot of things to navigate in terms of her relationships with people, whether to trust or not to trust, how she trusts them, all those kind of things. So that's definitely in the fore.
Yeah, Madison, I keep saying this, no one believes me because they haven't seen the real Madison. She is Australian and she is very much a character actor, I think. Because when she takes on that character of Dani, you can feel her body language change. The way her eyes even move, it feels like you're looking at a different person. Like when I watch the film, I don't see Madison Brown. I see Dani. And I think that is such a magical thing. And it's hard to, when you cast someone, you don't get to see the whole film play out with them in that role. So it's really, really tricky to meet someone and decide that can this happen? Is this possible? Is this going to be the right choice? And with Madison, it was so clear she understood something about this film. She saw the same challenges in making this film. Because I think you want someone on that age line of 17, 18, like an adult kind of. And we really wanted to make sure we walked that fine line of her being a victim, but also being totally autonomous and making her own decisions for better or worse.
Yeah, and I've sort of tiptoed around some of the more unpleasant parts of the story
Yeah.
here. So I'm going to leave it to your discretion as to how far I want to go or you want to go to describe the circumstances that Dani finds herself in. I'll leave it to you because I loathe to give away more than I should in a conversation with filmmakers. So please feel free.
Same. I am hesitant to say too much because I don't want to say it's a bit of a twist, but
Okay.
there's a big reason that we haven't been using it in much of the advertising. I'm hoping it's a film that sucks you in enough that you make it to the point at which we reveal why Little Red Riding Hood is lost in the woods. But I think that is such a core part of the film that it also is a shame to leave it out of the conversation.
Yeah, but and I mean it takes a while for you to yeah for me as a viewer to quite grasp. Okay, I know she's in trouble. I know she's been in trouble. I'm not exactly, and that's sort of as this film unfolds, it kind of reveals itself, obviously, to what
Yeah.
is going on. But okay, yeah, we'll leave it there because it just say it's a really compelling drama about about this young woman who's dealing with some crushing sort of circumstances that she has to try and navigate. She's lost her grandmother.
Yeah.
It was very important to her, and that's sort of a big part of the story and her story. So
There was a wonderful quote that someone wrote about this film. It explores the modern perils of girlhood. And I was like, that's exactly what this is. As far as like a fairy tale for our time, like what are the challenges that young women face? And I think this film very much digs into that. Like, what are those quiet things that people aren't expecting when you talk about being a teenager and coming into your adulthood and your sexuality?
well, and many years ago, Matt Wolf made a documentary called Teenager, and it was kind of chronicled the the progression of the sort of the social mores, the social kind of expectation for teenagers. And it goes back to the time when teenagers became an economic force. He took it like back to the 50s when all of a sudden they had disposable income. So
Yeah.
they began to sort of find their way in the world. They became an economic force, and by virtue of that, became more of a kind of a more important period of time in young people's lives in the way that society looked at them. And along with that came the sexualization of
Yeah.
teen, and all of a sudden thrusting upon these young people expectations that no generation before, at least in this world, had ever faced, kind of in that kind of pressure cooker or in that perception. It's very good in terms of just sort of laying out this is when teenagers became a commodity, if you will, you know. a profit center, if you will, for society. So yeah, that was interesting. And this film feels like this is with a manifestation of all of that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm saddened because I don't know what you're referencing, the teenager thing, but I will have to go check that out. But I think I probably came up just feeling that inherently
Yeah.
because of the society we live in.
I just want to remind our listeners we're speaking with Kelsey Taylor. She is the director, producer, and writer of To Kill a Wolf. And it is coming out the 1st, August
Yeah,
1st.
August 1st. Yeah.
Thank you. So August 1st, and it'll in a theatrical run.
We open in New York, then LA, and we'll be in the Pacific Northwest, Oregon, Bend, Portland, Seattle. And then our last week of August will be nationwide, Chicago, Atlanta, Denver, Tampa.
Two
No,
things.
no,
I want to mention, and I don't want to just, I'll mention how important to the story that Michael Esper is as Carrie and Caitlin Doubleday as Jolene. Very important in terms of just a lot of the framing of what the story is about.
yes.
And so I would highly recommend their performances in this. But it's something I alluded to earlier, which I really want to talk about because I think the cinematography here is Adam Lee is it's really good because it's outdoor, indoor, soft lighting or low lighting, bright. It's just a lot of things going on. Just a terrific piece of work.
Yes, Adam is fantastic. Adam and I are longtime collaborators. We met my first day of film school. I worked under Adam for a long time in the camera department, but we do speak the same language when it comes to storytelling. And I think, ironically, more than anything, Adam is a storyteller. He's an incredible cinematographer as well. But for me, the reason I love working with him is that he's all about the story, what makes sense for the story. And because of our background working together, we can be really, really honest about, okay, this is what we need if this is the aesthetic that we want. And this film, I'm really proud of the fact that we didn't have any traditional kind of camera movement. We didn't have a slider. We didn't have a dolly. If you watch closely, it's all pans or it's done through the blocking of the characters, and it doesn't feel like a still film, which makes me happy. There's some zooms as well, but yeah, I'm very proud of the way the film looks, and I don't want to compromise anything else for the aesthetics of it. But I do think if you're building a world, you do have to prioritize the way that the film looks and the locations you're shooting in. And Adam and I worked very, very hard on making sure we had the right locations, especially working with very few resources. You got to make sure you're in the right place at the right time.
It's so important. Not only are you, as Adam, filming a scene, but you're right, setting up an aesthetic that is consistent throughout the film. So you're not jarring the audience out of that particular mood or mode that you're trying to get them into with shots that just don't work. And I've often said, I'm not the only one. I'm sure it's been said since the beginning of film that the cinematographer is in many ways the second most important person on the set. And they have to be, and you have to be of the same mind going into these things.
Like, don't tell any of the other crew members that, but I agree with you. Totally agree.
One other thing about this film, this is your premiere feature film. Sort of what is the takeaway for you? I mean, first of all, in terms of your confidence level, but what did you feel like you learned coming into this full-blown feature enterprise?
Great question. Yes, my first feature, but I have worked on a lot of features in other departments below the line. I've done a lot of AD work, a lot of camera work. Adam and I think, have worked on 12 or so features together in one capacity or another. So as far as putting the film together, that wasn't so much a concern for me. I think that's where my strengths lie. I'd say what I learned the most about was screenwriting. I learned how little repetition you need in a screenplay. When someone sees it, they get it. You don't need to tell them 3 times for them to get it, unless you're watching Netflix and you're not really watching it, you're doing something else. But all this to say, I would definitely write things differently going forward. I already have started. At the same time, you're kind of tasked with this. When people read your screenplays, they're not reading them very closely either. So as much as I learned about what should be in a screenplay for your shooting draft, it's probably different than what you're presenting to people when they're signing off on it. So it's the other tragic thing I learned is that filmmaking truly is a business. We've had a lot of struggles with the selling of this movie and the distribution. I've had kind of a crash course in what it looks like to distribute a film yourself. And I think I'll be a better filmmaker for it, especially as the world continues to evolve and we deal with these new challenges to the industry.
Well, just to take a moment to pat myself on the back. That's why this show exists, is for that
Hey.
reason. These are the kind of films that I live for, knowing that, nobody's going to be, fighting dinosaurs or flying through space. These are the films that I truly think people should seek out. If it isn't at your megaplex, you should go to killawolf.com to find out where you can see it. I'm so happy for you. Congratulations on To Kill a Wolf. Again, it's opening on August 1st, and you can find out more by going to tokillawolf.com, and you can find out all about the screenings and find out more about the film and the filmmakers. And congratulations.
Thank you, Mike.
You have been listening to Cinemaphile. I'm your host, Mike Kaspar, and you can listen to previous interviews as well as special programming, or you can subscribe by going to Cinemaphile, that's File, with Mike Kaspar, at Spotify. Until next time, thank you for listening.